Hello, welcome to the start of this week's reading vlog. So, if you have seen last week's reading vlog, you know I had an amazing week, and I'm hoping to keep that going this week. So, I only have two carryovers from last week, and one is The Priory of the Orange Tree by, I think it's Samantha Shannon. There's going to be an image here, so if I'm wrong, you'll know. But I am like 200 pages in, and I'm really liking it. It's one of those stories that it's hard for me to say why I'm very into it, but when I'm reading it, the world goes away. Like I'm in that world, I'm with those characters. It's wonderful. I think there's it's one of those fantasy stories in a different fantasy world where politics are very based on, your geography. There are these different dragon creatures in this world that's pretty interesting. You've got like the more eastern relationship with dragons and the west, and it's kind of like Game of Thrones where you have different POVs everywhere. So there are definitely some POVs I like more, but all of the plot lines are important and intriguing in their own ways. So in the East storyline, we have this girl trying to become a dragon rider. In the West, we have a queen who's being forced to marry and have a kid for the sake of her kingdom. We have a man who's been exiled and sent to the enemy's territory to try and figure out what's going on. So, like, this is my type of fantasy where I like following these threads and, like, just being immersed. And the characters are really cool. Like, I'm really liking them. Like, Iad is this really interesting character to me. She's the queen plot arc. And watching their relationship grow has been one of my favorite things. And also, I'm really scared because you never know if there's going to be stakes in a book. And I think there's going to be stakes in this book. And yeah. But I'm just really happy I'm having a good time. Because the other fantasy books on the BooktubeSFF list were not for me. Or at least they didn't sing to me, if that makes sense. I don't know why I use that phrase, but that's what I'm going with. And in theory, the author says there's shapeshifting in this book. That's what she said on her Tumblr post. So because of that, it's my transfiguration book. But if I get to the end and there's no shapeshifting, then I won't count it towards that. I have enough books to finish the rest of my owls, but I'm hoping. So that's one holdover from last week. And also, I'm still reading Say Nothing. This is the nonfiction about the IRA in Northern Ireland. I've read part 2 in last week's vlog, and I started part 3 today, and I think part 3 is going to be my favorite because I feel like parts 1 and 2 were a lot of setup, a lot of history, a lot of needed information for me to understand what's going on. And now things are coming together because this book starts with us talking about how there are these letters at Boston College that are important for solving the murder of this woman in Northern Ireland. And now we're actually in that part, like we're looking at what happened to get these letters to Boston College. So I'm pretty excited. I should easily finish that this week. I only have a few hours left in that audiobook. And we're going to try and do virtual book club with my local bookstore, which means I need to read Women Talking, because that was our book for this month, and that I should have had that read by yesterday if the world was normal, but I don't, so I need to get to that. And that's my arithmetic book, because it really is outside my comfort zone, because it is a really, really dark topic. Lots of trigger warnings for it. It's essentially, I think, about a bunch of women for a night or two discussing their situation, and their situation involves physical violation of their bodies. So yeah, it's going to be really dark. I don't know what I expect from it or what I expect to get out of it, but I have heard good things. I don't know. Honestly, if this wasn't for book club, I wouldn't pick it up, but I've said that a lot about a lot of book club books that have become favorites or that I've found to be very important and like that people need to read. So we will see where I land on that, but I do need to get to that because I said I would help co-host those book clubs, so I should probably have read the book. And that's it for now. I am going to snuggle up in a blanket and read for the rest of the night. Check in a bit. So it's been a few days. It's Friday, and I think I did my first check-in on Tuesday. And I have been reading, but the last 2 days, I'm gonna be honest, were really rough on me, mental health-wise. Between construction on the street, loud upstairs neighbors, and I they were doing construction in my buildings, we all got new apartment doors. I just like kind of broke down a little bit. But we're doing a little better. It's amazing what like 2 nights of sleep can do. And so I actually today, all my work for the week's been done, so I decided I was going to try and do the off the grid readathon early. Really, all this means is trying to read this weekend without my phone. So when I choose to read, really like committing to that time. And so today, between audiobooks and physically reading, I think I've read for like 3.5, 4 hours. So that's been really putting me back in a good reading space. And so I've gotten like almost 40% of the way through Women Talking, which is my book club book, and this is for sure outside of my comfort zone. But I've noticed, so it's a story about women in this meeting for 2 days about, they call them unwanted visitors, so content warnings for that, but, or trigger warnings even, but these meetings that they're having, this discussion of should we stay or should we leave, if we stay, do we fight, like these discussions these women are having, it reminds me of reading a play. It's not a play, and the minutes aren't written like it's a play, but I feel like that's the medium in which this would shine the most if I was turning it into something, I guess, because that's what it's reminding me of. I am really excited for our book club discussion on Monday. I mean, I'm terrified about being in charge of the virtual book club with a lot of the people who are joining I don't think are technologically nimble, I will say. But I'm excited to really discuss it because it feels like a really good discussion book, which is great for book clubs. So that's where I'm at with that one. I can only really read small snippets a day because A, it's a really rough subject matter, and B, it's kind of written in a way that's hard to digest more than like 40 or 50 pages at a time. But it's only like a 200-page book, so I'll get it done. And I read a boatload of Priory of the Orange Tree. I think probably since the last time I talked to you guys, like 200 pages of it, which is really like nothing because this book's like 800 pages long. But I feel like for me, this is what I wanted A Song of Ice and Fire to be. Like, you know, a world with lots of different countries who have different cultures and stakes and dragons, you know. And this is like still a lower magic system, high fantasy, but there's like enough magic to keep me happy because I like a bunch of magic in my fantasy books. I don't know. If it doesn't have a bunch of magic, then I'm there for a different reason and I better know what that reason is. And so, yeah, we're really starting to like learn about it, and I feel like we're learning about it in a pretty authentic way. I'm not very good at noticing when things are data dumps because, or info dumps, I think they're called, because if they are info dumps, I'm enjoying them and I don't care. But I feel like we are organically learning about things with the characters and it all makes sense. Oh, and oh, this book, I'm terrified about how it's going to end. This is like a standalone, so, and so far it is not pulled punches. And every time something like happens or I'm like, yes, this is wonderful, it's like, no, you cannot have nice things. And so it's been great in terms of like my investment, and the emotional roller coaster has been fun, but I'm terrified. So that's been really good. So I've gotten a bunch of that read, and I'll probably read a tiny bit more, but I might just watch some booktube before boyfriend's coming over. We're gonna get some takeout because it's Friday, and I do that on Fridays to differentiate my weeks from my weekends, and playing some online Codenames with some friends back home tonight. So that will be fun. And for those who don't know, Codenames is a really fun word party game, and I highly recommend it. And yeah, if you want to know more, I will tell you more in the comments below. Just let me know. So that's my Friday check-in. Hopefully the next time I check in, I'll have finished something. I don't know. This week's weird. It's like I'm working on a really long book, but that I'm reading pretty quickly, but then I'm also working on a short book that's taking me a long time. I don't hate it, but I'm excited to, you know, have more thoughts. I do think next time I check in, I'll be done with Say Nothing, because I only have like an hour and a half of that left. So yeah, I'll see you in a bit. I just realized you guys haven't seen my cat this whole vlog, so here's your weekly allotment of cat fuzz. And I have finished things. I have finished Say Nothing, which I have no idea how to rate nonfiction, but it's a very good nonfiction. So that's what I'll say about that. I feel weird rating facts. Like, In terms of enjoyment, I don't think any nonfiction's ever really been 5 stars, but I can also see nonfictions being important enough that I feel like you need to read this. I think this one is a very good, relatively objective look into the Troubles, which is the time in Northern Ireland where the IRA and the British soldiers and the local police had these, essentially, I mean, it was never declared as such, but a civil war, right? So I think it's a relatively good look into one snippet of it, and I really enjoyed what I've learned. And yeah, I if you at all are interested in that, I think this is really good, and I definitely recommend the audiobook. I know I've said that in previous vlogs, that still holds. And it's really interesting. Part 3 was definitely, so part 1 is like the 60s to 70s, how everything escalated in terms of violence. 70s to 90s is kind of book 2, and that's more, yes, there's still violence, but also more about some of these key players and how they are also using the prison system to their advantage. And book 3 is about peace times and the recording of these tapes that were at Boston College, and then how these tapes are used both to help solve murders but also for political advantages. It's just fascinating. I'm really glad we picked it up. I also finished, so these are both book club books. I don't know why I read them so close to each other because they're so usually outside my comfort zone. But I also finished Women Talking this morning because book club is in like 20 minutes. Oh goodness, I hope it goes well. You guys will know because I'll be checking in after this. But yeah, that book, I definitely wish it was a play, because the whole point is conversation, and it's kind of philosophical conversation, both religious and morality, and about what does it mean to be a person, what rights do you have. It's very interesting conversation, but in terms of reading it, I mean, you need to be super focused, or else you're gonna miss the point. And so that's why it took me so long, because after 30 or 40 pages, my brain would not want to absorb every sentence as well, so I'd have to stop and wait till my brain was more awake, which is good. And I really am interested to see how this conversation goes tonight. I feel like it was a good read. I definitely, trigger warnings, and there's no explicit scene mentionings or references to any acts, but I mean, as I mentioned previously in this vlog, this is a dark content book. I personally am lucky enough to never have gone through anything like this, so I don't have trigger warnings for it, but I know many people will. So just keep that in mind. And I only have 150 pages left of Priory of the Orange Tree, and I'm really liking it. I'm hoping to finish it after book club if I can just like get my life together. We will see. If not, I'll finish it tomorrow morning, and I'm gonna end the vlog after I finish that. I think it makes the most sense in my brain. So yeah, I'm still really liking that. I will have more cohesive thoughts, I think, after I finish it. But yeah, it's great. I'm having fun. That's nothing's changed in that regard. Maybe there was like one moment we just had today that was like kind of slower, but it also was only like 20 pages. So like in an 800-page book, if only 20 pages have been a pacing problem for me, that's like not bad. All right, that's a long enough check-in for now. Also, I've decided Say Nothing was my Muggle Studies book because I forgot that I was reading that this month because it's an audiobook, and it's definitely about Muggles. So yeah, doing great for my owls. Doing great. Say hi, Fuzz. The hair is big today. Now, it's the day. I did not finish last night, but book club did go really well. So that was great. It was nice, a great conversation. It really enhanced my experience with Women Talking. I highly recommend it for book club discussions, because really what everyone takes away from it compiled together is just, it's wonderful. It's one of those books that I wish I would have read in high school when we did have to do those like deep dives. It's only 200 pages, but I still hold to all the trigger and content warnings I've mentioned previously, so obviously don't read it. If any of those things trigger you, I don't think it will be pleasant. But I finished Priory of the Orange Tree, and I really liked it. It was fun. I mean, I don't think it's a perfect book because I don't know if she wanted it just to be a standalone or I don't know. So it's a standalone book, which is rare in the genre in general. And I don't think it was done poorly at all. I had a great time, but I felt like it could have been a wonderful duology. It would have just given us that much more space to like be with the characters and the different arcs. But that said, I don't really feel like any scene was superfluous, which I know can happen when you get into grander fantasy. But it also kind of so it felt like, so this is a weird analogy I was like half thinking of. So I'm the type of person who loves football movies, but I hate football. Like I don't like the drawn outness of it. Like I've grown to like it, but it's like tedious to me. Versus in a football movie, you just see the highlights and you just get all the like momentum and, the high moments sort of thing, right? And I felt like this was like taking a huge epic fantasy, like maybe not something as big as Wheel of Time or Stormlight Archives, but maybe like Mistborn, that's a large trilogy, and really distilling it down to its just like really key pivotal moments, which was not bad. Like I really did have a great time, but I just felt like some things could have been developed just a little bit more. That's like my instinct, is that there were some things that I wouldn't have minded spending more time with, even if it was an extra 100 or 200 pages. But that said, that makes this book really long, and there are very few books that I have the patience to read for 1,000 pages. So I just felt like this could have been a good duology, like maybe two 500-page books or something. And who knows, we might still get a sequel. But it's a wonderful world, and I really was connected to a few of the characters. The last 100 pages were a blast. Like I don't have any complaints there. And honestly, like I said, I don't feel like any scene was like really drawn out. There were very few moments, like maybe 20 pages, where I felt like, I just want to keep going. I'm bored. Like that did not happen a lot for me in this book. Everything was very engaging. I thought all the relationships were pretty great. And I don't know, for me, like I said earlier in this vlog, it's what I really want when I pick up a book like A Song of Ice and Fire or those big political fantasy drama world sort of thing. It gave me a lot of good intrigue, it gave me a lot of fun magic, it gave me some good politics, but it didn't get bogged down in any of the details that I find dry or boring. So it was fun. So I don't know if I'll give it a 4 or a 4.5. It's somewhere in there, and I kind of like erring on the side of positivity. So I'll probably just give it a 4.5 because it made me feel good. That sounds right. But that's the end of this vlog, and I have finished so many books, which, puts you in such a like good mood. Like it wasn't as good of a reading week as last week, but I've finished 3 books this week, and one of them was a big chonker. So I'm pretty happy to have gotten 3 more books off my TBR. So yeah, I hope you have had a good week, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.